What if the secret to filling your line well wasn't your lure's color or action, but a sound so low frequency that most anglers completely ignore it? After 30 years chasing largemouth from those muddy farm ponds where I started as a kid to big reservoirs with my boat, I've learned that bass hearing is one of the most underused tools in the sport. I'm Travis from Green Valley Anglers, and today we're diving into 3 landmark studies on bass hearing. Dr. Don McCoy's behavioral training at the University of Kentucky, Holt Johnston's 2011 auditory brainstem response work on black bass, and Halvorsen's 2013 Naval Sonar exposure tests. You'll discover exactly what frequencies bass detect best, how to weaponize low-frequency rattles and thumps for more strikes, and the common pitfalls that cost anglers fish every single day. By the end, you'll have a simple system to turn sound into your biggest advantage. Let's make those bass respond before they even see your bait. Bass hearing basics. First, let's understand how bass actually hear. Unlike us with our wide 20 to 20,000 hertz range, largemouth bass are hearing generalists with a narrow window, roughly 10 to 600 hertz, peaking around 100 hertz. That's the low rumble range. Think distant boat motors, thumping crankbaits, or vibrating blades, not high-pitched squeals that a lot of lures make. Dr. Don McCoy at the University of Kentucky proved this in classic behavioral experiments. He trained largemouth bass in lab tanks to swim across a barrier when they heard specific frequencies, using a mild electric shock as motivation if they didn't respond. By testing dozens of tones, he built the first hearing curve for bass. Peak sensitivity right at 100 hertz, solid detection up to 200 hertz, and dropping sharply after that, and nothing detectable over 600 hertz. So bass would respond to those low tones to avoid electrical shocks, and once the range got high enough, they would stop responding altogether and continue to get the electrical stimulation. I remember my early pond days chucking silent plastic worms and wondering why nothing hit it when the water was super stained. Then I switched to a rattling crankbait that produced those low thumps, and suddenly, bass came from nowhere. And that was my first clue. As many know, sound travels 5 times faster underwater and alerts bass before vision even kicks in. What's the desire we all chase? More explosive strikes and limits instead of skunks. You miss this low frequency window, and you're invisible to distant bass in murky or deep water, wasting casts while they ignore your silent offerings. But master it, and those same low rumbles pull fish in from distances you never thought possible, turning slow days into memorable ones. The McCoy study gave us the range, but what about the exact sensitivity in different black bass species? Holt Johnston's 2011 study makes it deeper with modern science. Daniel Holt and Carol Johnston at Auburn used the auditory brainstem response, or ABR method. He had electrodes on the fish's head measuring brainwaves reactions to pure tones. They tested both sound pressure level, what we think of as loudness, and the particle acceleration, the actual water movement the bass would feel. The audiogram showed a clear pattern. Thresholds increased with frequency, with the best sensitivities at the lowest tones, between that 100 and 400 hertz range, getting progressively worse as pitch rose. In particle acceleration terms, their hearing actually matched several drum species, excellent for detecting subtle bottom vibrations or distant thumps. But this confirmed bass rely heavily on low-frequency particle motion, not high-pitched pressure waves. In clear lab tanks, they pinpointed that black bass hear best in the exact rumble range that matches boat motors idling or a jig dragging rocks. My breakthrough came on a reservoir with stained water. It's graphing a ledge, dropping a lipless crankbait, an LV500 to be exact. Those low vibrations traveled through the water column, and the bass that were stacked on it hammered it before the lure even reached bottom. That study explained why. Bass detect those movements as particle acceleration long before they see the bait. 3 key takeaways from the Holt Johnston study. 1. Use particle motion lures like blade baits or rattling cranks in low visibility spots. 2. Avoid high-frequency baits or silent plastics when bass are suspended or deep. 3. In windy conditions, the natural low-frequency chop from waves becomes your ally, almost like a camouflage of sound to mask your presence and fire the bass up for feeding. We know the sweet spot, but what happens when intense low-frequency noise hits them? Our third study, Halvorsen's 2013 Naval Sonar study, reveals surprising resilience and big lessons for the water. Michelle Halvorsen and her team exposed largemouth bass, yellow perch, and channel catfish to high-intensity, low-frequency naval sonar, simulating the powerful what they call SURTAS LFA system used by the military. They measured hearing before and after intense blasts, levels far louder than any boat motor, tracking temporary threshold shifts and permanent damage. The results for largemouth bass? 0 measurable hearing loss. No temporary shifts, no permanent damage, even after repeated exposures that would wreck more sensitive species. Yellow perch showed the same resilience. Only the channel catfish with their special swim bladder adaptations had minor temporary effects, but they recovered pretty quickly. This proves bass are built for noisy environments. Their inner ears and lateral line handle low-frequency pressure waves without trauma. Autopsies from the test confirmed healthy hair cells and normal sensitivity post-exposure. On the water, this means boat noise, those deep idling rumbles, actually works in your favor in low-pressured waters. I've idled into pockets with the motor low and watched bass move toward the vibration before I even cast. However, in high-pressured waters, bass will hear you coming from a mile away and get lockjaw. Best to cut the big motor well before you get to your spot. 3 ways to exploit this. 1. Use low-frequency boat positioning to your favor. Are you on a high or low-pressured body of water? 2. Choose lures with heavy thump. Rattling lipless cranks, chatterbaits, over silent ones in stained water. 3. In tournaments or pressured lakes, the natural low-frequency chop from waves or distant boats can actually mask your approach. You fish right in the noise. How to weaponize bass hearing. Now we have the science. Let's turn it into more bites with the right lures and setups. Putting it all together, focus on that 50 to 300 hertz. Low rumbles that bass detect instantly. Lure choices. Rattling crankbaits, like lipless, rattle traps, the LV500 like I like to throw, blade baits, spinner baits with Colorado blades, chatterbaits, and jigs banging along the rocks. These create particle acceleration bass feel from a distance. Here's some techniques. In stained water, burn a lipless over grass to mimic fleeing shad. On clear days, slow roll spinner baits through structure so the vibration draws them in. Common pitfalls to avoid. 1. Using high-frequency baits or silent plastics in murky water. Bass never hear them coming. 2. Over-revving outboards near areas that hold fish. Even though bass are resilient, high revs create pressure waves that spook them. 3. Ignoring wind chop. Many anglers fish calm pockets when the low-frequency wave action on wind-blown banks is pulling fish shallow. My pond-to-lake journey taught me this the hard way. Silent worms in stained water got ignored until I turned up the sound. Suddenly, strikes double. The desire for consistent limits and bigger fish, it explodes when you match the low-frequency window. More reaction bites, fewer missed opportunity, and healthier releases because fish commit faster. One final system to make this stick on every trip. Build a 3-rod sound arsenal. 1 rattling lipless crank for open water, 1 bladed jig for grass, and 1 heavy football jig for the bottom. Match your conditions. Stained or windy, go heavy on vibration. Clear and calm, lower it down and mix in a little flash. 3 daily checks. Graph for bait movement near structure. Note wind direction for chop. And test 1 rattling lure first in new spots. In the milder temperatures we've had this year, these low-frequency tactics will shine even more. Bass stay active longer and respond to rumbles from greater distances. Here's a recap. McCoy showed the 10 to 600 hertz range, peaking at 100. Holt Johnston confirmed low-frequency dominance in black bass, and Halvorsen proved bass shrug off intense sonar. Weaponize low rumbles, avoid silent pitfalls, and watch your catches soar. Drop your best noisy lure story below. I love to read them. Subscribe to Green Valley Anglers for more science-backed bass tips. Hit the bell. Share if it opened your ears. Let's keep filling live wells. I appreciate you. Tight lines, and I'll catch you on the next one.